Okay. So today we come to last niyama, that is Ishvarapranidhana. And the sutra reads, Samadhir Siddhir Ishvara Pranidhana. Samadhir Siddhir Ishvara Pranidhana. ईश्वर प्रणिधान से समाधि की सिद्धि होती है. From devotion to God, Samadhi is attained. So this is a concept which we have already discussed. If you recall, in chapter 1, after completion of sutra related to upaya pratyaya, that is Shraddha, Virya, Smriti, Samadhi, Prajna, which is known as upaya pratyaya, and which is to be followed by all the yoga students to attain Samadhi. Having described that, a natural question arises, and which was raised in Vyas Bhashya, that is this the only means by which Samadhi can be attained? Or is there any other way of attaining Samadhi? Because we saw that in Sutra 16, 17, 18, after talking about Vairagya, they talk about Samprajnata and Asamprajnata Samadhi. So Vrittis and Chitta explained, then Abhyasa Vairagya, then Samprajnata Samadhi, Asamprajnata Samadhi. And they talked about higher beings, or those beings who are not in the normal existence. They come into birth as if to attain Samadhi. So having talked about that, they said that for others, and in the others, everybody else is included. For them, the upaya pratyaya is the way through which Samadhi can be attained. And various categories of students with different kind of mumuksha, different kind of intensity, that was described. So it was suggested that if a yogarthi has intense desire and his efforts are also intense, that means he practices this Shraddha, Virya, Smriti, Samadhi with great intensity, then for him Samadhi becomes very easy to attain. And then this question was raised whether upaya pratyaya is the only way to attain Samadhi, or is there any other way? Then Patanjali answers that by saying Ishvarapranidhana Dva. Ishvarapranidhana Dva. Samadhi, what it means is Samadhi can also be attained with the help of or by the means of Ishvarapranidhana. That is what was suggested. So it has been clarified right at the beginning in chapter 1 that Samadhi can also be attained by Ishvarapranidhana. And then we saw that, they described what is the role of Ishvara, who is Ishvara in yoga, according to yoga, because different perceptions of Ishvara are there. So what is Ishvara according to yoga? And then what are the qualities of that Ishvara? Those qualities were explained. And then how do we go about Ishvarapranidhana? That was described, that was explained. So here in this sutra, same idea is being restated in the form of niyama, in the form of this assertion that Samadhi can be attained by Ishvarapranidhana, or Ishvarapranidhana will lead to attainment of Samadhi. That is what is being stated in this sutra. So again, if we look at the meaning of this Ishvarapranidhana, we may recap a little as to what is this Ishvarapranidhana. Various ways we can understand this Ishvarapranidhana, and the central theme is that the person who's practicing Ishvarapranidhana, for him, all other things are secondary. Only Ishvara is the central thing. The So for him, Ishvara is the prime mover. So whatever he is doing, Ishvara is kept at center. That is what was suggested. So that kind of mental attitude where one is able to keep Ishvara as a focus, and all the time his actions are also of the kind which are related to Ishvara. And we saw that very few people are capable of that. Not everybody is capable of that. So there we saw some examples like Sant Gyaneshwar is there, Tukaram is there, Guru Nanak is there, Kabir is there, Mirabai is there. Now, these were the examples of those persons in our history who practice Ishvara Pranidhana as a central thing. For them, their Ishvara was everything. And because Ishvara was everything for them, because we do not know that they practiced any other thing, they only practice Ishvara Pranidhana. When we look at Tukaram, when we look at Jnaneshwar, when we look at Guru Nanak, they only practiced Ishvara Pranidhana. Even Kabir, he was a normal person and he was doing his normal work, but all the time he was just focusing on the Ishvara. So we know that they raised to great heights, but then everybody is not capable of that kind of devotion. So perhaps that is the reason Patanjali has been very wise in telling us and describing or mentioning Ishwar Pranidhana at three places. First, in the chapter 1, Sutra 23 onwards up to 29, we find that all the sutras are dealing with Ishvara. Then again he talks about Ishwar Pranidhana in Sutra 1 of chapter 2, when we were discussing about Kriya Yoga. So Ishwar Pranidhana is very much an integral part of Kriya Yoga. And now we are seeing that as a niyama also, Ishwar is being mentioned. So this Ishwar Pranidhan as a central thing is surrender, total surrender, and then it is unconditional surrender. It's total surrender, unconditional surrender, and all the time that contemplation, maybe in the form of japa, which was suggested last time in Swadhyaya, we discussed about it, and how Sutra 28 is suggesting Tajjapas Tadartha Bhavanam. So Omkar is the name of the Ishvara, and that Omkar has to be recalled again and again, again and again. And this has been the most prevalent practice all over the world. Nama Japa, Nama Smaran. सिमरन ये सबसे कॉमन टेक्निक है मन को एकाग्र करने की, ईश्वर को प्राप्त करने की, समाधि प्राप्त करने की. तो ये पूरे विश्व में इसका इस्तेमाल होता है. इवन those people who have not heard about Patanjali or Ishwar Pranidhan or Yoga Sutras, even they might be adopting this kind of technique, and they attain the mental states, they attain the concentration which Patanjali is talking about. So those kind of examples are there in every part of the world where this japa technique, where God is kept as a central thing, has been practiced, and as a result one has attained great heights in terms of spiritual enlightenment and also concentration. So this is a very significant part of Ishwar Pranidhan. And then we find that in Kriya Yoga again, which is very similar to Karma Yoga. Now, you see, everybody is not capable of bhakti, but everybody or many people are capable, majority of people are capable of action. If we look at ourselves, we are also kind of people who are all the time acting, all the time doing something or the other. So we saw that middle kind of students were mentioned when Kriya Yoga was talked about. So these people who are action oriented, all the time they have goals to attain, and all the time they are active, they were suggested to orient their actions or color their actions or give a slide went to their actions in the form of tapa, swadhyaya and Ishvarapranidhana. So it is very similar to Kriya Yoga. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that not a single moment passes when somebody is not acting. We cannot remain without action even for a single moment. That is a fact about human life. We are all the time acting. So one may ask, well, what if somebody is sitting quietly? Surprisingly, sitting quietly, when we talk about such concepts, doing nothing or doing nothing, in that also the action is there. Sleeping. Now, when a person is sleeping, he's not doing anything, but still it is a verb. Sleeping is a verb. He's doing something. Resting. Resting is also a verb. So you will find all the verbs which are indicating inaction on the part of human beings. That is also described in the form of work, indicating that there is an action involved. So there is not a single moment we can remain without action. Some or the other activity is going on. So thinking that Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, it is beginning with the suggestion of the karma yoga. They say that focus on the karma, do your karma well, but don't think about the result. So what is to be done with the result? Surrender the results to Ishwar. Same concept is there in Kriya Yoga, where Tapa, Swadhyaya and Ishvarapranidhana is there, and actions are to be surrendered to the Ishwar. So their special kind of Ishvarapranidhana is that all the actions are to be surrendered to God. That is, has been suggested. So the saying is there, kamato akamato yat karomi shubha shubham. मतलब जानते हुए या अनजाने में जो भी मैं कर्म कर रहा हूं, उन सभी कर्मों का फल और उन सभी कर्मों को मैं ईश्वर को अर्पण कर, उनके प्रति मैं संन्यास लेके उसके नतीजे जो हैं, उसके फल जो हैं, उनका मैं ईश्वर को अर्पण कर रहा हूं. Saying this, a person begins the day, and saying this, a person ends the day. So at the morning when he begins, he says that whatever I am doing, I'm surrendering everything to God. At the end of the day, he says, I'm surrendering everything to God. So that kind of attitude is maintained. That is what is, Ishvarapranidhana and Karma Yoga also. So it is not only in bhakti that the Ishvara comes in. Not only for bhakta or mystic, but even a person, worldly person who is doing worldly act, he can also take advantage of his activity only by developing right kind of attitude. And what is that attitude? The attitude is that whatever he does, there's no stop, there's no bar on telling him that don't do this, don't do that. So according to life station, according to life situation, according to the position one is born in, you are required to carry out certain activities. You are required to carry out certain duties. And those duties have been in terms of dharma. So carry out your sadharma. Whatever is your duty, you do it. But only thing is that you surrender all the actions and all the results of the actions to God. That is what is suggested. And then we come to this Ishvarapranidhana as a niyama. So you look at the beauty of it. Ishvarapranidhana as a bhakti in chapter 1, Ishvarapranidhana as a karma yoga in chapter 2, Sutra 1, and now here niyama. But then one question arises that niyama is not like yama. Yamas are to be practiced all 24 hours. जिसको हमने महाव्रत कहा है, यमों को महाव्रत के रूप में अभ्यास करने के लिए, साधना करने के लिए सजेस्ट किया गया है. और जो नहीं कर सकते वो उसको अनुव्रत रूप में कर सकते हैं. लेकिन अनुव्रत महाव्रत बताते हुए भी, they have said as far as possible, without any consideration of jati, desha, kala, one has to practice yamas. Same way, one has to regularly practice niyamas. But in case of yamas, jati desha kala is applicable. In case of niyamas, they have not said that. In case of niyamas, what is suggested? That as far as possible, whenever there is a need, you can practice niyamas. So now the question comes, if Ishvarapranidhana as a niyama is to be practiced occasionally or when the need is there, then how that niyama can result in this kind of samadhi? So the answer is, here perhaps little interpretation is there, little stretch of imagination is there, or little deeper understanding is required. Ultimately, what happens is when a person is practicing all the sadhana in the form of other yamas and niyamas, asanas, pranayam, and even dharana, dhyan, samadhi, when it is practiced, then what happens is ultimately a stage comes where the human effort finds its limitation, or it culminates into highest possible human effort. After having reached that stage, what is there? Then perhaps the grace of God is needed. So sometimes our efforts are not really fructifying because our efforts are within our own limited energy, and sometimes we may not succeed there. But there, if we take recourse to Ishvarapranidhana, then we find that even the small amount of efforts we put in, they produce very great results. So that is what is happening. So possibly Patanjali had this thing in mind, that after having practiced all the, because initially one is not able to practice Ishvarapranidhana directly. So what you are interested in, I am interested in body. So do asanas. I am interested in something else, meditation. So do that. So depending on personality of the individual, he may start practicing the various techniques. But after having practiced all these techniques, a stage will come where one has to come to that divine part. And that's where the Ishvarapranidhana as a niyama also can fructify, and it can give the results. Because one is constantly practicing this. Niyam also suggests that during the day, some part of the day, you surrender to God. You think of higher reality. You keep surrendering your actions to God. This is also suggested there. So even as a niyama, it's part of daily sadhana, it's part of daily routine that one is practicing Ishvarapranidhana. So somewhere it appears that the person reaches a stage where now the divine intervention is needed. And that is where the Ishvarapranidhana comes in. So when one goes into that kind of mode where he is now surrendering to God, then samadhi becomes very easily available. That is what the sutra is contending. So this point of Ishvara coming into play, one may say that I'm atheist, I don't believe in God. So one may not call Ishvara, one may not say God. Something unknown is there, some supernatural power is there, some superpower is there, something unknown is there. So this can be seen from the lives of many yogis. One of the example which came to my mind was of Changdev. See, Changdev was a great yogi. And then there's a dialogue and there's a meeting between Jnaneshwar and Changdev. So Changdev was a yogi of very high order, and Jnaneshwar we can call Bhakta. So the interaction between two, that is also quite indicative that somewhere this Ishvarapranidhana becomes a necessary thing. Even when we talk about Hatha Yoga, the founder of Hatha Yoga, today whatever is being practiced in the name of Hatha Yoga, it originated from the Nathas. So when we look at Yogin Gorakshnath, Gorakshnath also talks about Ishvara ultimately. Gorakshnath's, if you look at Gorakshnath principles, Then they talk about Shiva. And surprisingly, they talk about that Ishvara which is beyond dualities. So, Nath Yoga, it is peculiar in this sense that various systems are there. Like we know, we discuss about Sankhya. Sankhya is a dualistic system. प्रकृति और पुरुष की बात करते हैं. अद्वैत है, वो ब्रह्म की बात करते हैं. एक ही प्रिंसिपल, एक दो प्रिंसिपल की बात करता है, एक एक प्रिंसिपल की बात करता है. लेकिन नाथ योगियों का योग ऐसा है, नाथ योगियों का ऐसा कहना है कि हमारा जो योग है वो द्वैत और अद्वैत से भी परे, वो द्वैत और अद्वैत से भी आगे जाता है. एंड दे टॉक अबाउट परम शिव. And without Param Shiva's grace, nothing is possible. So they try to describe that Param Shiva, and say same principle is that is of Shaivism of Kashmir. So various systems are there, but they do talk about this. And this is not only true of yogis, this is also true of scientists. So somewhere it appears that human efforts have got tremendous value, but there is a point where some divine intervention is sought. Person comes to that level. So even in the field of science, you will find same thing happening. So many scientists who are real great scientists, when they thought about the mysteries of the universe and they talked about higher things, ultimately they came across this idea of spiritual source of everything. Spiritual source of everything. So that's where the divinity comes in. About Albert Einstein, such a great scientist, ultimately he talks about spirituality. Where the science ends, the spirituality begins perhaps. So somewhere that divine principle is there. It's not, and many scientists are there, really great scientists who are really discussing about these things, contemplating, meditating. And now the latest thing which is there, which perhaps appears to be very, very attractive. They say that, this entire world is nothing but dream or some activity, mental activity of God. So whatever we are seeing, it is happening in the mind of God. So we all are existing in God. That is the contention. And surprisingly, you will find that philosophically, many people criticize Sankhya as Nirishwar, because Sankhya does not talk about God like the others talk about. But then, according to Sankhya also, this entire creation is creation of Hiranya. So this entire world, which is physical in nature, also has spiritual source in the form of Hiranyagarbha. It is his mind which is working in the entire universe and which is making it possible for us to experience the world. Because mind is a totally different tattva. The consciousness is a totally different tattva. But how this mind is able to experience something which is very, very material, जिसको जड़ जगत कहते हैं, वो जड़ को भी अनुभव कैसे करता है? तो जड़ जगत का नियमन कौन कर रहा है? तो जड़ जगत का नियमन भी ईश्वर कर रहा है, ऐसा सांख्य और योग मानता है. So these are the various thoughts which are there. So at some point, one has to come to a level where maybe one says that now my efforts are over, my energies are gone, now I depend on you. So this has been the practical thing which many yogis have experienced. So I just thought, now this appears to be very technical and little imagination is required to understand, but I thought it is necessary that we discuss about it. What are the various points of view and what are the contentions? So something like some discipline like even Taoism, for example, we'll be surprised. The way Vedanta talks about Brahma, In exactly same words, Taoism talks about Tao. So when Taoism is trying to describe Tao, or Tao as they call, the words which are used exactly the same words. There was this great Lao Tse who has not written, who uttered something and those were recorded. And that is available to us in the form of Tao Te Ching, the words of wisdom of Tao, the wisdom of this great man Lao Tse. So there he is describing what is Tao. If you read that, you will be surprised that, some of the Upanishads are talking about Brahma in the same language as Tao is, this Lao Tse is talking about Tao. Because both are ultimately related to the spiritual realm. Both are related to the, that divine field. Somewhere this Ishvarapranidhana is very important. And perhaps that is the reason why Patanjali has been wise enough to mention Ishvarapranidhana at 3 places. Otherwise, he will not use it. He is mentioning Ishvarapranidhana thrice. And Patanjali is known to be a conservist. He will not use even a single syllabus extra, single syllable. एक वर्ड भी एक्स्ट्रा नहीं इस्तेमाल करने वाला आदमी है. उसके सूत्रों में कहीं पे भी हम एक मात्रा निकाल नहीं सकते और एक मात्रा डाल नहीं सकते. आप कितना भी बड़ा संस्कृत का विद्वान और पंडित आ जाए, वो पतंजलि के सूत्रों में से एक मात्रा भी निकाल नहीं सकता. अगर वो एक मात्रा भी निकालेगा तो पतंजलि के सूत्रों का अर्थ बदल जाएगा, या तो पूरा अर्थ हमको नहीं मिलेगा. तो इस प्रकार का भाषा का प्रकांड विद्वान और अथॉरिटी, why he is giving us so many times this same concept, this is something which we have to understand. So from that point of view, Ishvarapranidhana, so even the atheist will come to a level where they will have to recognize that there is a higher power, there is a higher mechanism which is working and which is running the universe. And human intellect has got limitations. The sooner one recognizes this, the better it is for his upliftment, the better it is for his growth. So if a person is always thinking, I am the doer, I have the power, then he is not improving very fast, and he may have to pay a very heavy cost for that. The sooner one recognizes that not everything is in my hand, there are many things on which I don't have any control, I have to depend on higher power, higher order, higher mechanism, which is universal, which is unknown, which cannot be known, which cannot be described, which cannot be really seen in terms of other objects as we see them. So the sooner one recognizes that, even at the practical level, you see, even at the practical level, the person who recognizes that there is a larger power working in the universe, and we are just a tiny peg, we are just a tiny thing in the entire thing. The moment this thought comes in, automatically there is a humbleness, automatically there is a change in state of mind. See, the moment we recognize there is a higher power, immediately there is a change. And that change is it brings about such a mental state of mind that it becomes conducive for Samadhi to occur. We have been discussing, actually, Dr. Jaydev always used to encourage that the like-minded people should discuss things, they should support each other, they should help each other in growth. That was the endeavor, and from that point of view, many times sadhak groups were made at the Yoga Institute. The idea to make the sadhak group was that with each other's support we grow. And one of the essential activity of this sadhak group was sharing one's experiences of sadhana, of solving the problems, of overcoming the difficulties, so that the others get inspired and they can also make use of it. So when we discuss about Ishvarapranidhana, often we find what is being shared by sadhakas who are practicing Ishvarapranidhana. One of the most important part of sharing is the moment you think of God, the moment you try to feel God, immediately there is a change in mental state. All the fears, all the doubts, all the agitations, all the worries, they just vanish. And mind acquires a kind of certainty. Mind acquires a certain amount of stability, steadiness. It is a kind of power. It is a kind of strength one gains from Ishvarapranidhana. This has been the common experience of most of the sadhakas who are practicing Ishvarapranidhana. And all negativity, all doubts, and all apprehensions as if cease to exist. Now you see, if this is the state of mind being prepared automatically by mere recall of the Ishvara, by merely contemplating on Ishvara, or saying some prayer, or just thinking of God and contemplating on the qualities of God, if this is the mental state which is created, then what are we trying to do when we are doing asanas? Through asanas, we are trying to create a good state of mind, stable state of mind, steady state of mind. We are creating that state of mind where we are free from the klishta thoughts, klishta vrittis. Klishta vrittis are what? Fear, uncertainty, hatred, anger, resentment, guilt, this egoism, superiority complex, various complexes, inferiority complexes. All those fall under the categories of klishta vrittis. And through practicing yoga, person say that I gain confidence. How I gain confidence? Because I'm feeling physically strong. I'm feeling energetic. And I know I got very good concentration. I can do anything. So this is the kind of confidence. Now this confidence is what? It is a klishta. How it is gained? By the practice of various kinds of yoga techniques. Now Ishvarapranidhana, merely by recalling God, merely by chanting name of God, merely by remembering God, this state is automatically created. So there is no need for any other thing. And perhaps that is why Ishvarapranidhana has been considered as superior thing. So when you read the commentary, you will find that, very beautifully Aranya has raised this point that, when somebody says, if Ishvarapranidhana is enough to give you Samadhi, then what is the use of other techniques? So the answer lies in whatever I said till now. Not everybody is capable of this kind of Ishvarapranidhana. So initially one may be very egoistic. I don't believe in God, but I can practice asana, I can practice yoga. But sooner or later he'll have to come to realize, he will have to come to a state where he understands that there is a higher power which is working. This may take time. So all the techniques are helping us in right direction, in going in right direction. And then he also says that when we talk about Samadhi, all other techniques which have been mentioned, which are coming prior to Samadhi, they are automatically getting included. Because when you talk about Samadhi, Samadhi is the extension of Dhyana. Dhyana is extension of fixity, that is Dharana. And to be able to do Dharana, we need a very strong mind. We need a concentrated mind. We need a steady mind. And how do we attain that steady mind? आसन करते हैं तो मन शांत होता है, यम नियम करते हैं तो मन शांत होता है, प्राणायाम करते हैं तो मन शांत होता है, प्राणायाम करते हैं तो मन एकाग्र होता है. तो मन जब एकाग्र होगा तभी फिक्सिटी होगी, तभी धारणा होगी, और जब धारणा होगी तो ध्यान होगा, और ध्यान से फिर समाधि होती है. तो इसीलिए जैसे हम लोग कहते हैं कि समाधि, तो समाधि के अंतर्गत सब आ जाती है. तो इसीलिए ये सूत्र में भी जब भी ये कहते हैं समाधि सिद्धि ईश्वर प्रणिधाना, तो इस समाधि के अंतर्गत बाकी सब टेक्निक, हर टेक्निक का अपना महत्व है, पर अल्टीमेटली इट अपीयर्स. आई एम नॉट क्लेमिंग दैट दिस इज मेंशन्ड बाय सम अथॉरिटी, और बट I can say that ultimately one has to come to this level where one has to recognize that there is a higher reality. And we are not everything. We have to recognize, we have to admit, we have to surrender, and we have to be aware of that reality. The sooner we are able to do that, better it is for us. And the more we are able to do it, the better help we can gain from that divine source. So ultimately a stage comes in the life of yogi where, and that's why when we had visited Madhupur, so we met Swamiji there, Swami Bhaskar Aranya. When we were talking to him about what can help us more and more. So many things were suggested, and one thing which he said on the last day when two of us were to leave, he said there is a book called Trai. You take that book and you read that. So in that Trai, all the three things are there. The Karma Yoga is also there, the Jnana Yoga is also there, and Bhakti Yoga is also there. So somewhere, they are going hand to hand. As one is practicing and gaining more and more benefit, the faith and certainty comes, stability comes, the knowledge comes. Knowledge comes in the form of discrimination, knowledge comes in the form of understanding. And when the understanding is deepened, one easily recognizes that this entire world is so complex that some divine order must be running it. So even in that, Nyaya is it that there's a higher reality which is working. So this is the important aspect of Ishvarapranidhana. And there are times when we have to just leave it. We can't do anything. We just leave it to God. And things happen. If we can do it consciously, as a desperate measure, we all do it. But if we can consciously inculcate this, if we can practice it willfully, take out some time during the day for practice of Ishvarapranidhana, then it is very helpful. That is what is suggested. Now, how to contemplate on God, what qualities of God are to be kept in mind. There's this shloka which is given in the beginning of that book, which has been recommended. It is called Ishvarapranidhana Sutra also, and in the book, it is mentioned as Mangala Charan. So every time I talked about Ishvarapranidhana, I normally chant this. So today also I will chant it and see what qualities they are talking about in that shloka. You can sit quietly with eyes closed, back upright in a relaxed way. Om Namo Avidya Vihinaya Yasmitarahitaya Cha Ragadvesha Prahinaya Nirbhayaya Namo Namaha Samahitaya Shantaya Nisangaya Nirashishe Atmanam Janate Samyak Swasthaya Chanamo Namaha Sansitastvai Vayatma Tvamantaratmani Sthitah Vitarka Vihine Harde Akashe Me Mahiyata Vaime Sarvam Atmani Me Tvam Om Smare Smare Om चित्तं शामय शामय ॐ। स्मराणि सोऽहं ॐ। शान्तं चिन्मयं ॐ माम्। तटस्थं केवलम् ॐ। स्मराणि शुद्धं ॐ माम्। Just contemplate on whatever you understood from this. Remain in the same position, close the eyes, contemplate on whatever you understood from this. Keep your eyes closed. I'll read the meaning. Om Namo Avidya Vihinaya Hyasmita Rahitaya Cha Raga Dvesha Prahinaya Nirbhayaya Namo Namo. My homage to that being who is devoid of all misapprehension, free from the me feeling, above desire and hate, and bereft of all fear. Samahitaya Shantaya Nisangaya Nirashishe Atmanam Janate Samyak Swasthaya Cha Namo Namo. My homage to him who is in perfect peace and quiescence, calm, beyond all attachments, beyond or above all cravings, who has got perfect knowledge of the metempiric self and the self, and he is self-contained. संस्थितस्त्वयि बाह्यात्मा त्वम् अंतरात्मनि स्थितः वितर्क विहीने हार्दे आकाशे में महीयता. My outer self, that is body, is in thee. You are present in my inner self. O Lord, you manifest yourself in my inner heart, free from all perturbations and worries. Tvayi me sarvam om, atmani me tvam om om om, smare smare om om om, chittam shamay shamay om, om om om. God, my all is in you, and you are present in my inner self. Please direct me to be mindful of thee. May I be led by my spirit. May I get peace of mind. Smarani soham om om. Shantam chinmayam om mam om. Tatastham kevalam om om om. Smarani shuddham om mam om. May I have constant remembrance of thee and of my purified self dwelling only on thee. Om, 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 Om. Okay. Can you open your eyes? Now you see there are many prayers, wonderful, beautiful prayers in praise of God. But the sutra, the shlok which we chanted just now, this is the prayer of a yogi, a yoga student. And it was composed by the great yogi Swami Hariharanaranya himself. So he was the practicing yogi, and we are yet to find an example like Swami Hariharanaranya, who devotes his entire life, and he has composed. And this is the way he recommends a yoga student to pray to God, contemplate. So I thought, let us chant it and let us see how Ishvarapranidhana is to be carried out. Little time is there, so if there are questions.
निरंजन, ये जो बात आई थी कि we do our best and there comes a time when we have to leave it to God.
Yeah.
It is just an intellectual loud thinking that even like this meeting that I'm attending, I think it's God's grace that has made me to attend the meeting. Even the food that I have on my table, it's God's grace. So I think each and everything that I'm doing or talking, it's all God's grace. Without Him, His grace, even the slightest efforts, even doing asanas or trying to practice yamas, niyamas is not possible. So I think what I need to do is like feel His grace and feel that it's His grace that is making me do all this thing, even thinking and planning and whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, if we can maintain this awareness, as Dr. Jaydev would always say, that if we can maintain this kind of awareness while going through day-to-day activities, then things do not go wrong. Things will be helpful. The unfortunate part is we are not able to maintain this awareness.
The doership comes, but then that has to be overcome right now. With
yes. Yeah, that urgency has to be there. Otherwise, only as I mentioned earlier, we do it in desperation. When situation becomes very bad, we become totally helpless, then we run to God. Instead of वो जैसे वो कबीर का दुआ है, सुख में सुमरन दुख में सुमरन सब करे, सुख में करे न कोई, जो सुख में सुमरन करे तो दुख काहे को होए. So जब things are going right, we forget about it, we lose that awareness. But all the time, suggestion is that all the time one is able to keep this idea in mind, and one maintains this aware that whatever is happening, it is His will, and everything will be fine. Maybe our prayer that I should maintain, see, beauty. Dr. Saab has given us a simple prayer of one sentence. हमें अपने मन को हमेशा संतुलित रखना है. तो अगर ये अवेयरनेस रहेगी तो संतुलन खोने का कोई बात ही नहीं, संतुलन बना रहेगा.
ये मुस्लिम्स में बोलते हैं इंशाअल्लाह, इंशाअल्लाह, मतलब कि अल्लाह की रजामंदी होगी तो काम हो जाएगा. दिस वर्ड वेरी ऑफन.
हाँ, पर वो प्रॉब्लम यही, जैसे बाकी लोगों में है वैसे ही वो भी ह्यूमन बींग्स है. या नहीं, वो तो बोलने के बाद में भी वन हैज टू, हम लोग तो मिलते हैं तो जय श्री राम, जय श्री कृष्ण बोलते हैं, हम लोग भी बोलते हैं, लेकिन वो मतलब इट शुड बी केप्ट अलाइव. जैसे अभी बहुत बार ऐसा होता है, ईश्वर के बारे में कल्पना है, वो बोलता है दाई विल बी डन, हर चीज में ईश्वर की रजा देखना, लेकिन आदमी तो अपनी रजा ही चला रहा है, अपनी विल पावर, मेरे हिसाब से काम होना चाहिए. यही जो आदमी बोलता है इंशाअल्लाह, उसके मन के विरुद्ध कुछ हो गया तो देखो फिर उसका बिहेवियर. आदमी हमारे इधर भी प्रेयर बोलते हैं ईशावास्य विदम, ईशावास्य मिदम सर्वम, सब कुछ ईश्वर की मर्जी से हो रहा है, लेकिन फिर थोड़ी हमारे इच्छा के विरुद्ध होता है तो हम तो डिस्टर्ब हो जाते हैं, दुखी हो जाते हैं, परेशान हो जाते हैं। अगर हर चीज ईश्वर की इच्छा से हो रही तो वी हैव टू एक्सेप्ट। जेन्युइनली अगर हम इसमें यकीन करेंगे, भरोसा रहेगा इसमें, तो शायद इतना डिस्टर्ब हम नहीं होंगे जितना होते हैं। Even Christians, they pray, "Thy will be done, Thy will be done, O Lord God." But where is God's will? Acceptance कहाँ पे होता है? प्रॉब्लम वहीं, सभी जगह घुमा फिरा के प्रॉब्लम वहीं आता है कि आदमी इंटेलेक्चुअली तो समझता है, लेकिन फिर जब एक्शन की बात आती है तो सेल्फ असर्शन, अपना ईगो आड़े आता है, जो सबसे बड़ा दुश्मन हमारा।
So the truth is that self-assertion always comes. As long as things are going very, very slowly, that mind has started accepting, okay, if it is not as per our will also, there is something good. But still, it is not totally deep-rooted in the mind.
इसीलिए क्लेशों में भी ईगो जो है, अस्मिता है, वो सबसे ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट। अस्मिता को, ईगो को थोड़ा आदमी अगर बाजू में रख सके तो ईश्वर के बारे में याद करते ही ईगो अपने आप थोड़ा कम हो जाए।
सर बट कई बार समझ में ही नहीं आता है कि यहाँ पे ईगो आ रहा है, तो तब क्या करने का?
क्या, फिर से बोलो।
सर कई बार we don't realize that this is our ego. We feel that we are not egoistic, but at times when a third person, when your guru or your teacher tells you, okay, no, this is your ego, only then that is where you realize. So how to bring that self-realization?
नहीं, we have to keep this awareness all the time. When the, that is the surprising, ये ईगो जो है ना, इतना धीरे से चुपके से आ जाता है, और चुपके से आके इट टेक्स ओवर। यही प्रॉब्लम है। इसी को डॉक्टर साहब बोलते थे, ईगो ऑफ ईगोलेसनेस। कई बार आदमी, स्पिरिचुअल लोग भी बोलते हैं मुझे तो ईगो नहीं है। तो फिर ये कौन बात कर रहा है कि मुझे ईगो नहीं है? तो ये ईगो, हाँ, तो बहुत जागरूकता के साथ होगा, कम होता है जागरूकता के साथ। जब आदमी बहुत अवेयर रहता है तभी वो उसको दबा के रख सकता है, लेकिन बीच बीच में वो उठते रहता है। तो ये बहुत कंटिन्यूअसली लंबी लड़ाई है।
Yeah, but reflection techniques are helps, to realize, even though वो हो जाता है, but when you reflect on it again on an everyday basis, which has started from Yoga Institute all these years before, you come to know कि ये आप ही का ईगो था, इसलिए आपने ये किया.
Anybody else would like to say on this?
For me, I feel it has helped me.
Okay. Okay.
Namaste,
So we leave here.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
Very nice class, sir. And I definitely feel the presence of the supreme power. But I have a technical question. I'm trying to understand a few things technically, because I also study the Bhagavad Gita. So, as in Bhagavad Gita, in one of the shloka, I think it's chapter 4, the 12th shloka, that Sri Krishna says that know that everything is happening with the help of the gunas, under the effect of the prakriti, and consider me as the non-doer, the Brahman, or Sri Krishna itself says I'm the non-doer. And I'm also trying to understand Sankhya perspective, although the Prakriti in itself is dormant. It doesn't function without the witness principle, which is the Purusha. Is that correct? How
Yes.
can I understand the doership and non-doership when it comes to Sankhya philosophy?
So we have seen that the evolution starts with the combination or coming together of two diverse principles, Prakriti, which is Jada, and the Chetana, which is the Purusha. And a third entity is created in the form of Buddhi. It is created in the form of pure eye sense. It is created in the form of Buddhi Sattva. So there Sattva Guna is predominant, but the consciousness of Purusha is also there. So this entity asserts itself as the reality. And that is what is ego. It is a composition of gunas. Without gunas, it cannot exist. So it is a product of guna, it is a composition of guna. And that's why you'll find Krishna also says to Arjuna that in this universe, from earth to heaven, there's nothing which is not composed of three gunas. So you have to go beyond these three gunas. That is what is suggested to Arjuna. Now here you will find the Sankhya and Yoga position is that Purusha and Ishvara both are beyond the gunas. They are liberated. They are free from the gunas. So the entire focus in yoga is to become aware of this Purusha principle and hold on to that Purusha principle. To remain conscious, to remain aware all the time. You know, when the person is aware, when the person is totally aware, the ego cannot come into play. Because that awareness will not allow ego to come into play. Or any fear to come into, or any klesha to come into play. As long as that awareness is maintained, one can keep them subdued. And that's why, you know, suggestion to Krishna, to Arjuna is that go beyond the gunas. You see, a stage comes, the method is, in yoga and Sankhya, the method is that from rajas and tamas effect, we try to go more and more towards sattva. Why sattva? Because sattva can reflect back the light of Ishvara or light of Purusha. So the more sattvic a person is, the more discrimination he will have between the Prakriti and the Purusha. And ultimately a stage will come. Now sattva is there. Sattva is full of knowledge. Sattva is full of vivek. So we have attained knowledge. We have attained viveka. Then what? Still the mind is there. Still the gunas are there. So all Sampragnata Samadhi is there. The highest knowledge is available in Sampragnata Samadhi. But what is the use of that? Ultimately, after attaining that knowledge, next step is what step? So they talk about asamprajna. So even that has to be left behind. So somewhere that transcendence of guna has been talked. Same thing what Bhagavad Gita says, same thing, Sankhya and Yoga, transcending this gunas.
Ji sir, thank you very much for your answer. Thank you. Namaste.
So we leave it here.
So thank you so much. Thank you for the wonderful session.
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone.